Money is not just for spending. Money is not just for saving. There's actually some inherent value in just owning money without ever spending it that most people overlook. Now, poor people, they simply make money in order to spend it, right? They say, I want to earn XYZ dollars in order to buy product ABC. That's a straightforward way, right? This is how we all thought about it as children, right? We get pocket money, we can spend the pocket money on something. Now, as we age, we come to the idea that maybe we should save some money in order to retire someday. Or maybe we should save and invest some money in order to have passive income. So then money doesn't become a vehicle to buy another product. It rather becomes a vehicle to buy back our time. We are so busy working all the time, so we invest it in order to get passive income so that we don't have to work that much. So that's the straightforward way how most people think about it. But there's a third dimension of the value of money that most people overlook. Because let's think about this. If you earn money in order to spend it, it's very straightforward, right? It makes sense to work in order to have some direct gratification from this. The issue is, if we work in order to save, in order to retire early, it can take a very long time. As in, we need multiple years of our income, multiple years of our expenses in order to retire. So this is a huge jump from spending just say a few $1,000s to suddenly saving hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. So really, where does the motivation come from? It's getting a bit more additional time, maybe 20 years down the line, versus having now some shiny object today. That's probably the main reason why most people have such a hard time saving and investing. Really, the target is too far out in the future. It seems like the seeds that we plant today don't have an impact on the harvest next year, but on the harvest, say, in 20 or 30 years. And who knows if we still live at that point. And so it seems like the reasoning is somewhat rational. Why should I save all of that money? Why should I work that hard? Why should I invest that much when the results that I get from all of that are that far out in the future? And they are on top of that very uncertain. I rather live today. I'm still young, I'm still healthy, and I might regret not enjoying my life. To a degree, that reasoning does make sense. But here's the thing. If you're not saving and investing because it's just for retirement, and because you might figure out how to make more money later on, and because you might get an inheritance, and because you might have support by the state, and because you might move to a cheaper country at some point and have much lower expenses, if you tell yourself those kinds of stories, it appears logical, but here is what those people are missing. Money has a value besides just being spent and being saved for old age. Money has a value in giving confidence, in reducing risk aversion, in being able to take smart risks that most people aren't able to take. In other words, money has value even if it never gets spent, even if it never gets invested, even if it's just dormant in an account laying there doing nothing forever. Money still has value. So let's work with the following scenario. You're currently broke. Maybe you're even in credit card debt. You've got huge financial stress. And now you're at a job that you don't like. You're at a job that you hate. You've got a boss that you don't like. Now, in that situation where you don't have any money, you also don't have any choices. You also don't have any confidence. You will very much ask, should I speak up against this terrible job if you're currently in that situation? Because the potential downside of losing that job in that situation is huge. If you're in that situation, you're choosing between an ugly job and getting your car repossessed. Now, getting your car repossessed and getting thrown out of the house, that's much worse of a scenario. So you're keeping up with the job. You're not speaking up. You're not changing the job. You don't have confidence to take risk. The friction is simply too high. The perceived risk is simply too high. Now imagine you already have a few months saved up. That's not enough in order to retire. That's not enough to get sufficient income passively. That's also maybe not necessarily great to just spend it. You've got a few months laying in your bank account. You're doing nothing with it. And you're in a situation where you've got that bad boss. You've got the bad job. Now, when you've got some money saved up, you might feel more confident speaking up. Even if the situation were to escalate, you could still change jobs. If the situation doesn't escalate and the boss actually moves back on the big unreasonable demands, etc., now you have a better job environment. So you're not necessarily using the money. You simply just feel more confident having the money. You're okay to take a calculated risk, in this example, speaking up against your boss, simply because you've got some money in the background. You're not spending it, you're not investing it, you're not retiring anytime soon. You simply have a bit of a cushion. And the interesting thing about this is that this effect becomes stronger and stronger the more money we have accumulated, the more wealth we have relative to our expenses. At the beginning, it might just be about speaking up against your boss. Then it might actually be changing jobs and potentially change into a job that you will still not like again. Then it might be about changing careers. Now, with each of those things, right, we need more money in the background. It's more risky. If you don't like your career and you want to change careers entirely, that probably needs more of a monetary cushion. Now we have to learn something new. Let's say you've saved up even more. Let's say you're okay to invest in a side hustle. So you need some kind of software, you need some kind of equipment to build up another income stream, to create another side hustle. If you've got more money saved up, you can actually do those things. You can't do this, you don't have these kinds of options if you're broke. But again, the side hustle might not need the investment right now. It just might need it down the road. But you're still willing to take that path because you've already got the capital saved up. It goes further and further. You might consider quitting all employment altogether, becoming self-employed. And again, self-employment income tends to be more volatile, so it might make sense to have some money saved up. If you've got 1 year of expenses saved up, it might make sense to try self-employment if you don't want to be employed. And it goes further, right? If you've got then 2 years, 3 years, 4 years saved up, you might actually consider launching your own business and employing a few people, even without a proven track record of cash flows. So we are willing to take on more and more risk in our life simply because we have more money. We don't necessarily have to spend that money. We don't necessarily have to invest that money today. But simply because we've got more in the background, our life becomes more free. We get more options. And that's something most people do not actively consider when they look at the value of money. They just look at it in terms of spending or in terms of passive income down the road. But there is this huge gap in between, right? The spending today, the gratification today, or the gratification 20, 30 years from now, it's $1,000 versus $7 million. Why would we have enough motivation to still save along the way? The reason is it gives us optionality. It gives us freedom. It gives us this feeling of confidence, of security, that we can speak up against the boss, that we can change jobs, that we can do our own business, that we can be self-employed. Those kind of things only work if you've already saved up. And that's why spending less than you make is so important. It's really a snowball effect. Wealth really compounds. And it compounds not just monetarily, it also compounds in terms of personal satisfaction. We do become happier when we've got more money. We do become less stressed when we've got more money. If people tell you that money doesn't buy happiness, they simply don't know how to spend it right. They simply don't know how to employ it right. They simply don't know how to invest it right. Really, without money, we are extremely stressed. And of course, there is a decline in marginal utility of money. Going from 1 million to 2 million per year is not the same as going, say, from $1,000 to 1 million. So obviously, we get less and less additional utility per unit of capital. But still, there is an increase in utility, there is an increase in happiness over time. We feel much more secure having some money in the back, and this does have an impact on our decisions today. It has an impact on decisions that are not directly touching the money that we own. If you found this interesting, feel free to give it a like. It helps the channel grow. Feel free to also check out the playlist with various videos with similar one-on-one talks. As a whole playlist, mindset and strategy. Feel free to simply binge watch that list. Thanks again for watching. See you next time on YouTube, or potentially also see you in the premium membership. This is where I personally share how I manage my money. See you next time. Cheers.